He is Yao, and although nowadays he is a fisherman who earns good money by risking his life in the North Sea, he used to be an elite soldier, but that was a long time ago. After 7 months, Yao returned to his country to reunite with his family, but a neighbor brings him the terrible news. The restaurant closed over 4 months ago, the owner became addicted to drugs, and now she lives under the downtown bridge. He no longer hears the rest of the story. Instead, he runs into the city to search for his wife. In a corner beneath the bridge, he manages to find his beloved Nancy, who is clearly high and does not recognize him. As Yao attempts to get his wife out of that place, we are shown what happened. Every day, a group of traffickers would go to lunch at the restaurant, and one of them found it funny to put drugs in the beer and then complained to Nancy. When she said that it was spoiled, in order to prove that the product was good, he tried the beer himself. That day, he experienced his first symptoms. In the following days, the traffickers returned and repeated the same act, but with the food and other things, finding it amusing to leave the cashier high every afternoon until she became addicted and began paying them to buy drugs. One afternoon, while Nancy was high in the middle of the street, her daughter went to look for help and was run over by a car. Nancy didn't even notice her daughter's death. She was too absorbed in the astral plane or whatever it was that the drugs did to her. Now that we are aware of the past events and Yao has managed to extract part of the information from his wife, she flees and climbs onto a bridge with the intention of jumping before Yao can convince her to come down and seek help. Nancy jumps and is run over by a truck. From her pocket, a piece of paper emerges bearing a symbol of 2 tigers, the only clue she gets from the culprits responsible for the death of her family. Let's jump ahead 2 years, enough time to keep the story interesting. Andu, a police officer, is leading a sting operation at a distribution center. The operation is a success and several traffickers are arrested, as well as half a dozen kilos of drugs are confiscated. As soon as Andu leaves with the evidence, a suited man appears, takes the bag, and thanks him for his help, revealing that Andu is also corrupt, but only attacks traffickers belonging to the rival faction of his superiors. The suited man, whose name is Herta, takes the briefcase to his boss's house, a man known as Mukan, who has all the money in the world but whose health is failing. Mukan knows that death is breathing down his neck and asks Herta to find his lost son, the only one worthy of inheriting his empire. But Shawa, Mukan's son, is a ruthless being who is currently in prison for the brutality of his crimes and has been sentenced to life imprisonment. Shawa is a monster who not only kills without hesitation, but also enjoys mutilating his victims. Yet that is not the most interesting part of the story. Do you remember Yao? Well, he is in the same prison, and with the help of the guards, he kills Shawa and takes his place. For the moment, we do not know what his plan is, but yes, Shawa is dead, and Yao has done everything in his power to make his face resemble his. Then he escapes from prison and takes a boat to the city, but the sailors turn out to be assassins who have been paid very well to kill him. After he gains control of the situation, a police boat appears and Andu meets with him, revealing that Andu and Yao are partners planning to destroy Mukan's empire from within. And this is only the first phase of their plan. The next is to take Yao to his father's mansion. Upon arrival, he acts according to his role and behaves exactly as everyone expected. The first thing he does is take out one of the phones he stole from the sailors and calls the only number he remembers. Suddenly, one of the phones starts ringing, and he follows the sound until he reaches a jacket on the armchair. When the owner appears, he brutally attacks him using a lamp to hit him. However, in a small flashback, we see that it was Herta who placed the phone in the jacket. He is the true traitor and truly wants Shawa dead, since it does not suit Herta that his partner tries to explain it. The man with the phone pulls out a weapon and executes him. The shot is heard by Mukan, who gets up to welcome his son. That night, they throw a party to celebrate. Mukan announces his retirement and presents his heir by handing him a necklace that symbolizes his new leadership. The next morning, Yao begins to behave like a leader and orders that he be taken to the supposed men who stole his father's product. Upon arrival, Yao decides to act alone and meets Balai, who was bold and foolish enough to rob Mukan. Yao seizes the opportunity to get to know him before attempting to kill him, unleashing a fight with his men. But in the end, he manages to overpower him and throws him over the edge of a building. While Balai clings on with the little strength he has left, We see that the very men who were supposed to protect Yao are about to kill him. But surprisingly, he returns unscathed and tells his father that the mission was a success. To everyone's surprise, Balai enters with the lost drugs and hands them over to Mukhan. Then he runs like a lapdog and positions himself next to Yao. Herta pulls out his gun and plans to kill him, but Yao draws his own and tells him that Balai works for him. Now Mukhan is pleased with his son's skill, and in the following scenes we see how the business prospers under his leadership. Balai is his loyal companion, and they do crazy things all the time, although we are still waiting for the planned revenge in the case of Andu, who is the nephew of the police chief, but is in love with his wife, Soila. The only reason he is helping Yao is so that he can arrest his uncle and finally be with her when he becomes the police chief, thus giving her a dignified life where she will never have to suffer again. The next day, Yao hands Andu a folder full of blueprints of the mansion, photos of the merchandise, locations of the depots, and much more. Almost enough to bring down his empire. But there is something more. Mukhan has a secret office with all his money, in addition to records of transfers to corrupt officers. If he can get that, then they will have everything to imprison him and purge the entire police department of corrupt officials. That same afternoon, Yao invites the police chief to dinner to inform him that his monthly cut will be reduced by 30%. This is because he wants to cause a conflict between them. Furious, Ayu, the police chief, orders Yao to be arrested and locked up until he resolves the matter with his father. But while Yao was resting in the cell, Balai and his men attacked the police station with long guns and Molotov cocktails. In less than 30 seconds, the place had turned into a war zone. Dozens of armed men were about to kill everyone, all to free Yao. Ayu, who was on his way to the station, calls Mukhan to ask him to do something, but then the entire highway begins to shake. Andu frees Yao and takes him to the mansion, where he is in good standing with Mukhan for rescuing his son. However, Mukhan's health is about to fail on his deathbed. The old man reveals to him the location of the secret room where all the business is conducted, along with the key that has always been in his necklace. Seeing that Mukhan is on the verge of dying, Yao confesses to him how he murdered his son and reveals that he is an imposter who has come to destroy everything Mukhan has built. Mukhan dies a few seconds later, and when Yao leaves the room, a lawyer is waiting for him to sign some papers. These papers will officially make him the owner and lord of all of Mukhan's assets and the leader of the criminal empire he has created. However, before Yao can sign, Herta blows the lawyer's head off. He is furious because the old man left him nothing. After 20 long years of service, Herta orders his men to kill Yao, unleashing a full-scale war between Yao's men and Herta's. Fortunately for Yao, he recruited Balai, who is a complete psychopath addicted to violence and brings many others like him, managing to clear out Herta's men completely. Now only the closest remain, and Andu is still there to support Yao. Together they kill the rest, and Balai takes charge of sending Herta to hell by running him over against a statue with all the bad guys dead. Yao reveals everything to Andu and hands him the necklace so that he does what is right and dismantles the drug operation. But that will not happen. Balai puts a gun to Yao's head and reveals that Andu plans to take everything for himself and has offered Balai a large piece of the pie for his loyalty. To understand all this, let's step back to the moment when Yao was begging the authorities to bring justice for his family. It was Andu who sent him out of the police station, but Yao dropped a folder with his papers. In this folder was his military record, which showed that Yao was a great fighter and highly trained. It was at that moment that he began to devise his entire plan of revenge, the first phase being sending Yao to replace Shawa in prison. Andu not only wanted to overthrow his uncle, but he was tired of his miserable life with a police salary and wanted much more. That is why he planned the explosion on the highway. When his uncle got out of the car, Balai was waiting to execute him with a knife that bears Yao's fingerprints. With this, he plans to lock him up for a long time, while he becomes the leader of the criminal empire and the police chief at the same time, using the information in the secret office. Andu manipulated everything to become the police chief of the entire city, carrying out raids that made him look like a hero on television. However, for him, the most important thing was power, and that is why he wanted to eliminate the rest of the corrupt police and the partners that Mukhan had left. All this by placing a bomb at his funeral that day. Belay was in charge of placing the explosives in the chapel, along with a lot of drugs and photos of all the people who died that year because of those in that room. From a distance, Andu detonated the explosives and sent everyone to hell, not expecting that all the money in the secret room would also explode, creating a shower of enormous banknotes. It is here where a new twist in the story is revealed, involving Belay, who before being an addict had a sister. His sister was Nancy, and when she began to show the symptoms of addiction, he took her to rehabilitation. There he met Soila, the attending doctor, with whom he fell madly in love. Together they tried to help Nancy, but they failed. Belay wanted to marry Soila, but she had her own problems. Her father, one of the few honest police officers remaining, was being extorted by the police chief. This chief wanted Soila and planned to marry her when her father refused to give his daughter to a corrupt man. That police chief, with the help of Mukan, planned his death. One night when Soila returned home, she found her father's corpse in the living room. He had been injected with an overdose and had been dead all day. After this, the police chief kidnapped her and forced her to live with him and to please him as if she were his wife. It was there that Andu met her, not knowing that she carried a whole load of misfortunes on her shoulders. Soila tried to find Belay at one point. One day she found him under the bridge, and their fate brought the three together. Yao told them about the misfortunes he had experienced, and after a while they realized that all their stories were intertwined. That is why Yao agrees to infiltrate the prison under Andu's orders, because he already knew what kind of man Andu was, given Soila, who never doubted his love for a second. Her heart belongs only to Belay and no one else. From the beginning, this was his plan, to destroy the drug empire and all those who benefit from it, and why not give a new start to all the victims? That day at the police station, Andu thought that Providence had sent him a trained soldier to manipulate things. But everything had already been planned by Yao, who had specifically waited for him to offer his help and hand over his file. All of this planned by Yao, but executed perfectly by all the people he managed to gather. They all lost someone because of drugs and wanted to see those responsible pay for their crimes. Andu falls into a state of fury and orders his men to kill Soila. Although Belay tries to protect her, she falls, but they promise to meet again in the afterlife. Then she presses a button and eliminates all of Andu's remaining men. Now only Yao is left to bring justice against Andu, but he shoots him and makes him fall from the rooftop, believing he has won. Andu celebrates, but shortly after, a screen turns on and he learns that everything has been broadcast live on national television. The deputy director of the police has seen everything and gives the order for a sniper to eliminate Andu, who is no hero but merely a criminal who disgraces the uniform. In the end, the true heroes died in the battle, but their lives were not in vain. The city was cured of drugs, and the government took the opportunity to eradicate the rest of the minor traffickers and create programs to help all those people living under the bridges. This was Yao's motivation to bring about change in memory of his beloved Nancy and his daughter.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.